let's do it. Just if we really fuck it up, I can edit it out, all right?
Okay.
So if you say I shouldn't have said that, that just didn't work, just go like that, and I'll do it. If we can ad-lib it, that would be better, you know. So,
Okay.
But I can edit it. Welcome to the Active Podcast. I'm your host, Ian Simpson. Welcome to the Active Podcast. I'm your host, Ian Simpson, and I'm sitting in the studio here with my co-host, Matthew Coleman. How are you today, Matthew?
Great, and it's great to be here. Thank you.
Good. Let me say a little bit about you and I to start with, not too much. Some of the listeners will know us, many won't. I'm from the UK. My background is in education, been here since '99, living in Japan. And you're from the US.
Yes, I am. I'm from Pennsylvania, and I have a background in art history and Asian studies. And I've been here in 2 stints, working and teaching. So I really enjoy it.
Actually, interesting point. You went to Sweden to do your Asian studies, did you?
Yes. Isn't that odd? I left Asia to study Asian studies in Scandinavia.
Scandinavia.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's a very good program on offer for my master's degree for 2 years, so I took it.
If it's free, take it.
Yes, and it was a wonderful free program.
So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do on this podcast. Basically, we're going to be talking about active English. Now, probably in episode 2, you're going to interview me, and I'm going to talk in detail about what active English is and the science behind it. But today, just to outline what the podcast is going to be about, predominantly we're going to be talking about the teaching, building businesses in Japan, starting and running your own English schools, the active English movement, and how it's growing. And I'm going to be talking more about teaching English through human movement, through sport and outdoor education with kids and adults, because that's my strong point. I spent 17 years as a physical education teacher, high school teacher in the UK and Australia, and as a professional rugby coach in Japan. So that's my strength. You're going to be focusing more on the arts, I believe, yeah?
Yes, I'm going to talk about active English with adults, teaching through food, culture, fashion, music, and how they can experience that, and then we'll connect the two to have the full experience.
Right, and we should stress that active English is not something that you should do instead of your classroom lessons. It's a valuable supplement to all the good work that's being done in the classrooms. But it's a powerful supplement to what's being done in the classrooms, yeah?
That's right, it's like a practicum for what we do in the classrooms.
Yeah, and the thing is, I've got a couple of young kids, and I know that kids these days spend so much time being inactive, playing on their iPads and their iPhones and all these games, and the mothers and parents are not happy about it, so I'm not happy about it. So when I see an opportunity to combine study with physical exercise, I like it. I'm excited, and I think a lot of parents are thinking like that as well, which is why this is a good direction to go in active English. Okay, let's also we're going to talk on the Active Podcast about things that we're interested in. We're interested in high performance. Actually, let me take it back a little bit, because before Active Podcast, we had Tokyo Real Podcast for a couple of years. That sort of kicked it all off. And at the moment, with this Active Podcast, we're just sort of rebranding it and doing it in a more casual, as opposed to a more strict interview style. This is more casual chat style. And on the Tokyo Real Podcast, we talked quite a lot about high performance, and we interviewed a lot of high performance people, and I'm particularly interested in that, about how to achieve high performance and become one of the top 10% of high performance players in your niche industry, talking with influencers, people who've been there, seen it and done it. So we're going to be including high performance tips as well, and chatting to influencers on this podcast. And also, creating good daily habits is an important part of high performancing.
That's right. So how you go about your day, how you schedule your life, what goes into your body, how you interact with people, mindfulness, nutrition, diet, sleep, exercise, that's all part of being a well-rounded person. But it also can help with your English. So we're trying to connect everything.
Absolutely, yeah. And before we get into today's topic is teaching English through food and cooking. The buzz phrase being food porn. Before we get into that, can I just take care of a little bit of business? Because without our sponsors, this podcast wouldn't exist. So I just want to give a shout out to our sponsors, The Edge Performance Analysis Solutions. These guys have a suite of great software tools for recording and analyzing your students' progress and performance in real-time capture. No post-editing required, it's all one click. Now, we use this software in our schools, and if you're a teacher, you're a school owner, or an online coach, this is a must-have, very powerful tool for you. One of the software packages that they have is MyTPE, Team Performance Exchange software. Not only can you easily share videos with your students and parents, but it doubles as a mini school management system. So very powerful. If you're interested in a free demo, go to the show notes on our website. Our website is activeenglishnow.com. Very easy to remember, activeenglishnow.com, and we'll hook you up with a free demo from our sponsors. Great bunch of guys. Thanks for that, for sponsoring us. Okay, Matthew, let's get into today's topic, which is food porn. That's scary. Where does that phrase come from?
Well, it doesn't sound it's honestly not as racy as it sounds, but it's basically the visual glamorization of food. And so people respond to it in the same way or a similar way to a very sexual experience. It's very highly sensitized.
Right.
Yes. So you see it all over in the media, on social media especially, and private pictures that people take while on vacation, everything.
Right. Yeah, social media, there's pictures of food everywhere, isn't there? I go on Instagram, some of my Instagram friends, they just post pictures of food all the time, especially some of the women, and I never see their faces. I just see beautiful food all the time. And then I got another mate who probably in opposition to them, he posts photos of the food, of an empty plate after he's eaten the food, with just all the dregs of the food on the plate. So it's all a bit weird. But the food, people love food. We know that. So why is food such a great tool for teaching English?
It's one thing that unites all of us because we need it, but also it's a fantastic way to learn about another culture. In an era of globalization, people can travel, people can see everything all over the world, and it's a great way for people of different cultures, countries, to showcase what they have. So that's something that can really connect us.
Yeah. And you're from the US, so you focus on a lot, well, you do everything, but a lot of time on American food, I guess.
Yes, I focus on mostly Pennsylvania Dutch food, because a lot of that is something you'd find in an American household, but you wouldn't necessarily go out to dinner and find that in a restaurant. Very few places have that. When Americans go out to eat, it's usually for some other country's food or some other culture's food, not something we can make at home.
Yeah, and of course Japanese food is great. Yeah, we all love.
Yes.
Foreigners come here, they love Japanese food.
Yes.
But I'm from the UK, and Japanese don't like UK food, don't like British food. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
Well, but it's a funny thing, They go to the UK on study abroad or something, and they say, I don't like the British food. I'm going to the UK, but I really don't like the British food, right? And if they're there for a year, 3 months down the line, right, they come back, fat as a pig. I really love British food now. It's what I think it's just, people get used to the food in whatever country they go to, don't they?
Yes.
I like British food. I think it's great. Yeah.
Yes. I like steak and kidney pie.
Yeah. Fish and chips.
Yeah, fish and chips.
Toad in the hole.
Yeah. I have seen a dish called spotted dick, and I thought it was something completely different.
Yeah. Okay, calm down. So, yeah, how would you use food and cooking in active English, and who would you target? Would you target adults? Would you target kids? And how would you use it in active English?
Well, I would mostly target adults because of maybe the vocabulary and level and technique level. With the vocabulary, you get to teach so many different words and imperative verbs related to technique. It's all about process and constructing that. So I think it's a very formulaic thing that's easy for people to learn as well. So they can connect the word with something physical that they enjoy as well. So when you're targeting your students, you want to make sure that it's appealing to them and that they are at a socioeconomic level where they can afford that price point that you want to set for your lessons.
Right. Yeah, that's an important part I want to dig a little bit deeper into, actually, targeting the students. So, many teachers can say, well, you're doing cooking lessons, you're doing active English food lessons. What are the learning outcomes, etc. Now, of course, this is all fine, but let's be realistic about this. Every teacher over here, we have lessons that you might say are highly academic lessons where it's a very structured curriculum with structured learning outcomes, and we have to hit those targets. But we also have a lot of lessons that are almost like social lessons, community center type lessons, coffee shop lessons, tea house lessons, people who go there as a hobby. So where would you put this on the scale? I'm guessing if you're really looking at an academic program, this is probably not it. It's more of a community-based type lesson. Am I right?
Yes, I would agree. This is a community-based, experiential type of program that's meant to be much more lighthearted, but where you still get to use what you learn. So, with this group, when you write a lesson plan, for example, for the recipe, it follows the recipe. People get to see you doing it, which is very much part of active English. So they can connect the action with the vocabulary, with the words, and that's a very important trigger in the mind.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll come back to targeting a bit later, because that's going to link in when we talk about can we make a profit from this, because that's an important question for teachers to be asking. So let's just carry on from what you just said there. So you're right. How would you go about this then? First of all, how would you write a lesson plan for what you do?
Okay. Well, when you think about a lesson plan, you have to think about what level the students are, and mine are usually a mixed level. So I make it fairly easy to understand, use simple language, and start with vocabulary, go through it, ask people if they have questions while you're doing a recipe. And so you can demonstrate the action if they don't understand a word. Therefore, they can understand it in a more active way.
And they get given the lesson plan with the vocabulary on it beforehand?
Absolutely. So they have the opportunity to make notes actively and ask questions at each point during the lesson. Yeah,
interactive, that was the other thing.
Yes.
How you just mentioned some of the ways you get them to interact. How else do you, because active English is basically an extension of TPR, so we're taking it a stage further. We want people hands-on, because we know when people are hands-on, when they handle things and they do things, they learn that much better. So how do you interact with the students? How do you physically get them involved in what you're doing? Is it like a demonstration, and then how do you do that?
Well, it's more like a demonstration in my situation because of the kitchen setup. There simply isn't enough room to get all those people into one small space. But what I do is when I'm mixing something in each stage, I send it around. Please smell this. Please experience this. What do you think of what you're smelling or what you're seeing? And usually that gets them started on their thinking.
Right. And of course, all this is, at least as much as possible, is done in English.
Yes.
All the keywords are in English, and when people are motivated about what they're talking about, their English is going to come out more naturally, isn't it?
It is. So. It is. They're going to forget about their grammar necessarily, and just think about enjoying themselves, just speaking. Yeah. That's the important thing, just speaking.
Right. It's like if you have a textbook in front of you and say, okay, please read all the list of foods on page 3. It's a bit different from saying, okay, have a look at all these ingredients on the counter here. What's this one? Somebody tell me. Anyone tell me what this is in English? That's kind of the way you do it.
Yes, and they ask questions like, where can I buy that? How can I get that? How is this different from that? Yeah. That really encourages conversation. And not only that, but critical thinking, which is so important.
Yeah. And what kind of food do you focus on making? The easiest kind?
Right, so we do make cakes or home-style desserts, and I choose things that are easy, less involved, because of the time frame, but also in order to have that fit the budget for the class.
Right, yeah.
So it has to be everything that is readily available in the supermarkets in my local area too. I don't necessarily have the time to go far away to access some things.
And so you're cooking with them, they're interacting with what you're doing, and then the great part about it is that when it's all cooked, actually before we go on to that, is it I used to watch, when I was a kid, I used to watch a program called Blue Peter, and it was always like, we're going to do this today. Oh, no, it was, Graham Kerr, the galloping gourmet,
yes.
That crazy guy who used
yes.
to drink wine
yes.
when he was cooking.
Yes.
Yeah, he was nuts, but he was great.
He was great.
Not many of the listeners would remember that. Who's a modern version of Graham Kerr these days?
Oh gosh, I think it could fall into a few different categories, because now there are TV reality shows based on cooking.
Right.
Like the Great British Bake Off or Iron Chef or something. Yeah. Which Iron Chef is actually from Japan.
Yeah.
Yes.
But in those shows they always had the one. But here's one we cooked earlier, and they have to bring it out, because when you're cooking a cake, it takes an hour or something, or
it can take a while depending on what you're making.
Yeah. So if you're making one in front of the students here, mixing up all the ingredients, you have to have one already in the oven that you can bring out and say, this is the finished product.
Yes, I always do double of everything, so usually the day before I have to make everything.
Right.
And then bring it in, so here it is, people.
Yeah.
Or we finish decorating it, we finish making the rest of the recipe.
Yeah.
So, yes.
And then that's what I was going to say, that's the great thing then, is that you all sit down together and you eat it.
Yes. And people then ask even more questions, or they can talk about what they like or what they don't like, or what is very different to what they have experienced or what they have imagined. Yeah, so like every Christmas I try to make a different trifle for the Christmas lesson, and that always gets very interesting reviews because it's something that they don't have here.
Yeah. And you can theme it, of course.
Yes, yes.
It's Halloween at the moment. You've got your Christmas, you've got your Thanksgiving, you've got your Easter. So there's all these events, cultural events around the world that you can theme into the foods that you're presenting to the students. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what about some of the pitfalls that our teachers out there should be looking for if they're looking to do some food porn lessons with the students?
Okay, well, you have to think about what group you're targeting. Make sure that you can afford to pay yourself. So choose locally available ingredients that fit with what you're trying to make it affordable, and also that you can make a good profit off of this, because not only is it about English, but you must be able to make a profit.
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure. Yeah, it's a bit of a dirty word, people say profit, but at the end of the day, whether you're a teacher or whether you're a school owner, It's the bottom line. It's all about the bottom line because we have to live. Many of us have wives and kids. We have to put food on the table. We have to make a profit.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with making a profit. It's what we do in business. It's what we should be doing, is trying to make a profit. But at the same time, we should be delivering good value for the prices that we're charging. And
absolutely, you have to really think about that, and it's totally doable. You just have to work within what your restrictions or your abilities are.
Yeah.
And that's doable for everyone.
Well, targeting. Let's talk about that because strategy is important. Yeah. So if we want to make a profit. This isn't a cheap way of teaching lessons.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I know what you do is that you target higher end people. So for example, some of the coffee shops, the tea houses, where we operate events, we know that the ladies that go there are the sort of maybe the middle-aged to older ladies who have time, who have money in their pocket. We know that, right? That in advance. So we target those customers because we know that they will pay what we want. And there's actually a waiting list, isn't there? For example, let's give an example of the tea house lesson that you do.
Okay.
10 students?
Yes, there's a cap of 10 students because of the size of the kitchen and the area. And we always have a waiting list, a very long waiting list. And some of the students do change just on my availability, which day and time. But you're right, it's a certain demographic, often ladies who have free time in the middle of the day and can therefore afford to and have an interest in cooking.
Yeah. So let's not be afraid of pushing up the prices. But whenever, as I always say, whenever you push up the prices, you have to provide value. It's okay to push up the prices, but go the extra yard, provide the value. Then that's fine. People are afraid sometimes to push up the prices. Don't be afraid. That's what we should be doing, because as teachers, this is our industry. If people keep driving down the prices on English lessons, on cooking lessons, whatever we do, when people drive down the prices, the only people who suffer are us, the teachers, the industry. What we should be doing is driving up the prices and adding more value. Yeah?
That's right. With that increase in price, you provide more content, better quality lesson. It's not something like a community center lesson where people are trying to get a low price, best value. It doesn't work that way.
No. So target the correct audience.
Right.
That's the point there. Yeah, and let's take that lesson, that tea house lesson, as an example. So 10 people, I think you charge them, is it 3,000 yen?
Yes, about 3,000 yen.
For 2 hours?
Yes.
30,000 yen. The owner of the tea shop, she takes her cut. You have to buy the ingredients. You got some preparation time. How does it all work out at the end financially?
Well, in the end, it works out for me pocketing about 10,000 to 8,000 yen. It's about $100 to $80, which is quite good for 2 hours of work, honestly.
Yeah, I think most people are happy if you can get 5,000 an hour.
That's right.
So not going to make you rich, but yeah, we do it for that.
No, it's about increasing your profile and what you do. So then you'll have what I have. You'll have these waiting lists.
Yeah. And we did an event a year or two ago. It was you and through my school, you and Dominique Dubois.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
She was working here at that point, and you two did a Christmas special lesson, yeah? Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because that was a runaway success.
That was fantastic. So Dominique was from Quebec in Canada, and I'm from the US, so we had very North American style experience. And we had to buy all the food quite a bit in advance, prepare many things the day before, but we had it at a community center where they charged a very low fee for the time that we were there, and we gave the students an amazing experience, a home style experience that they couldn't have otherwise, of a traditional Christmas dinner. So we had students from all of our classes and all age groups who wanted to join, and we had 2 hours to show this, but it's like a cooking show in that sense, like I do at the tea house. So they were able to experience things like roast turkey with gravy.
Yeah.
And that was a wonderful event for them. They really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and that, we had about 30 people come, I think.
It was about 30, yes.
Charge them 3,000 or 4,000 yen for the session. So we grossed about 100,000.
Yes.
Now, there was a lot of work, the two of you, that went into the preparation of that. But what, you probably, what did you clear? About 50% profit, 50, 60% profit on that?
We cleared about 50%